It started on Christmas Eve, the night the world smelled like cinnamon pine and wet earth. I was in my backyard hanging string lights along the white fence when I heard his voice again, smug and sharp as frost. "Relax, it's just grass." Colin Davis, my neighbor. 42, divorced, self-proclaimed dog dad of 3 German shepherds he couldn't control. His words carried over the cold air like a slap. Behind him, his dogs barked wildly, claws tearing at the soil near my flower beds. One of them leapt the fence again, and before I could even shout, it had trampled the decorations my kids and I spent the whole afternoon putting up. The crunch of glass ornaments under muddy paws broke something in me. For a second, all I could do was stare at the fairy lights, still blinking weakly in the dirt. Colin just laughed. "Come on, Liv, it's Christmas. They're just playing." I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Colin, this is the 3rd time this week. You promised to keep them on your side." He smirked. "You take things too seriously. It's grass. It grows back." His tone made me want to scream. But instead I looked at my kids, Emma and Jack, peeking through the sliding door, their faces small and worried. So I said nothing. That was my first mistake. 3 hours earlier, everything had felt perfect. Our little house in Cedar Grove was glowing with soft gold light. A fake fireplace app flickered on the TV, and I had Bing Crosby playing while cookies baked in the oven. It was the kind of quiet, cozy Christmas I'd always dreamed of as a kid, simple, safe, full of laughter. Being a writer meant I worked from home, surrounded by stacks of manuscripts and half-finished novels. My world was small, my family, my stories, my backyard. That patch of lawn behind the house wasn't just grass to me, it was where my kids had their first birthday picnics, where we built snowmen and grilled burgers. It was the place that made this little corner of Texas feel like home. But for Colin, it was just an extension of his property, a free-for-all field for his dogs to run wild. At first I tried to be patient. Neighbors are supposed to find a way to coexist, right? I'd knock on his door politely, ask him to leash them. He'd nod, apologize, maybe even offer me a beer, then do nothing. Then came the first fence argument. It started in October when he built a new pathway on the side of his yard, except he'd built it 2 feet onto my property. My dad, a retired contractor, had measured that land when I first bought the house. I knew every inch of it. When I confronted Colin about it, he chuckled like it was some kind of misunderstanding. "Liv, you're overreacting. It's 2 feet. What, you're gonna sue me over a strip of dirt?" That day I realized something about Colin. He wasn't just careless, he was entitled. And that sense of entitlement only got worse as the holidays came closer. By early December, he'd started letting his dogs out before dawn, their barking echoing through the neighborhood. One morning I found my son's soccer ball shredded. Another muddy paw prints across our patio furniture. But tonight was the final straw. When the last ornament fell, I called my kids back inside and locked the sliding door. I stood there for a long minute staring at the torn-up lights and the paw-shaped craters in the grass. Colin was already heading back into his house, leash, dragging behind him, humming some carol off-key. My hands were shaking partly from anger, partly from exhaustion. I took out my phone, snapped a few photos of the mess, and texted them to our Homeowners Association group chat, with a short message, "This needs to stop." No one replied. Not even the HOA president who lived 2 houses down and was Colin's golf buddy. I tossed my phone onto the counter, poured myself a glass of wine, and tried to focus on the small things, the smell of cookies, the twinkle of the tree, my kids laughing upstairs. But it was hard to shake the sound of Colin's voice. "Relax, it's just grass." It replayed in my head like a bad song. Because to him, maybe it was just grass. But to me, a woman who'd spent years rebuilding her life after a messy divorce, who'd worked double shifts to buy this house, that lawn was proof that I'd made something real. Something that was mine. At 10:30 p.m., I heard barking again. I walked to the window, heart pounding. This time, 2 of Colin's dogs were loose in my yard, digging, rolling, tearing up the lights that had survived. I grabbed my coat and rushed outside, shouting, "Hey, get them out of here." Colin's door opened. He stepped out, a beer in one hand. Jesus, Liv. You're gonna make a federal case out of Christmas Eve. My voice cracked. They're destroying my property. He shrugged. It's grass. Chill out. The way he said it, chill out, like I was some hysterical woman overreacting to nothing, made something in me snap. I'm done being quiet, I said. If this happens again, I'm calling the HOA. And the police. He smirked again, that same smug half grin that had started to haunt my dreams. Go ahead, he said, turning to go inside. See if they care more about your precious lawn than Christmas spirit. He slammed his door. The night went still except for the faint jingle of a broken ornament swaying in the wind. Inside, Emma asked, Mom, is everything okay? I knelt beside her, kissed her forehead. Yeah, honey, everything's fine. But even as I said it, I knew something had shifted. This wasn't just about grass anymore. It was about respect, boundaries, justice, the small kind, the kind no one ever talks about until it's too late. I looked out the window again. The dogs were gone, the lawn a mess of muddy paw prints and crushed decorations. I whispered to myself, relax, it's just grass. But my voice trembled because deep down, I already knew this Christmas karma was listening. The next morning, frost glittered across the yard like powdered sugar. The mess from the night before looked even worse in daylight. Paw prints pressed deep into the muddy lawn, broken ornaments half buried in dirt, and my once perfect Christmas lights, tangled like seaweed after a storm. I stood there in my robe and boots, coffee in one hand, disbelief in the other. Mom? Emma whispered from the doorway. Are you going to tell Mr. Collin I didn't answer right away? Instead, I pulled out my phone and snapped a new set of photos, wide angles, close-ups, timestamps. My writer's brain clicked into something colder, more strategic. This wasn't just an accident. It was documentation. By the time I'd finished, my hands were shaking. That was when I saw him. Collin out in his yard wearing plaid pajama pants and holding a leash like some kind of trophy. His dogs were bouncing around his feet, tails wagging, tongues out. They looked happy, free, unbothered. He waved, Morning, Liv, Merry Christmas. The audacity of it almost made me laugh. Merry Christmas, I said through gritted teeth. Your dogs were in my yard again last night. He blinked, pretending surprise. Really, huh? Must have slipped through when I let 'em out. You know how smart they are. I do, I said flatly. And I know you're supposed to keep them on your property. Collin sighed, like I was ruining his holiday spirit. Liv. It's grass. It'll grow back. Let it go. I'm not letting it go. This is trespassing, Collin. You've got to fix the fence. He looked at the fence, a white vinyl barrier now leaning slightly inward, and shrugged. Fence looks fine to me. It's not. It's cracked where they jumped over. He bent down dramatically, examining the base, then straightened up with a grin. Looks solid. Tell you what, I'll spray some sealant on your side, make it pretty again. That's not the point. Liv, he interrupted, you need to calm down. It's Christmas. I'm not going to argue about a piece of plastic and some mud. Then under his breath, I heard him mutter, some people really don't have hobbies. That did it. I called Daniel. Daniel Kim was my lawyer and my friend. We'd met at a writing workshop years ago when I was still working on my first novel. He'd switched careers from litigation to real estate law, but still knew every legal code in Travis County. When I told him what happened, he didn't laugh. He listened. Send me the photos, he said, and the messages from the HOA. I already did, I said. They're ignoring me. Of course they are. He sighed. HOAs are great at collecting dues and bad at enforcing anything that matters. So what do? 2 things, he said. File a complaint with animal control and document everything. Times, dates, photos. If the fence is technically on your land, you can also file a boundary dispute. Do you have your property survey? Yes. My dad kept all the papers. Good. You'll need them. And Liv, yeah. Don't lose your temper. Guys like Collin, they live for the reaction. I sighed. Too late. He chuckled. Then make your reaction productive. By afternoon, I'd turned my kitchen table into a command center. Property maps spread out beside my laptop. Photos labeled by date. A printed copy of the HOA's neighborhood conduct policy. Every clause seemed to exist for show. Pets must be restrained at all times. Property boundaries must be respected, but no one enforced any of it. Colin's house was practically immune. That evening as I worked, Ruby stopped by. Ruby was my younger sister, bold, loud, and allergic to drama, unless she was causing it. She lived 10 minutes away and had a sixth sense for when I was about to explode. She walked in carrying takeout and a six-pack. "I saw your text." "How bad is it, bad?" I said. "They wrecked the whole lawn." Again. She peeked out the sliding door, let out a low whistle. "Wow. That's not a lawn anymore. That's a war zone." "Tell me about it." Ruby turned to me with a smirk. "You're gonna write about this, aren't you?" I frowned. "I'm not sure it's funny enough for fiction." "Oh, it doesn't need to be funny. Just petty. People love petty." Ruby. She opened a beer. "Hear me out. You've got the perfect villain entitled neighbor Christmas setting dogs as chaos agents. This could go viral." I rolled my eyes. "I'm not writing about Colin." "Sure you're not," she teased. 2 days later, Colin escalated. When I came home from grocery shopping, I noticed something strange, a strip of fresh gravel running along the side of my yard right up against the fence line. A makeshift walkway. Except it wasn't on his side. It was on mine. I felt my blood run cold. I stormed to his front door, rang the bell. He opened it. Sunglasses on, smiling like a man who'd already rehearsed this scene. "Live merry. Day after Christmas. What is that?" I pointed toward the fence. He glanced lazily. "Oh, that. Just a little side path. Easier for me to walk the dogs. On my property." "Technically," he said. Drawing out the word, "it's shared space. The property line's kind of fuzzy." "It's not fuzzy," I snapped. "I have the survey. That's my land." He leaned against the doorframe. "Then sue me." My breath caught. "Excuse me, you heard me? Go ahead. File a complaint. Waste your money. The HOA won't care, and neither will anyone else. You'll just look like another angry neighbor." He smirked. "Meanwhile, my dogs will still need a place to walk." Then he closed the door. I stood there, fists clenched, shaking from a cocktail of rage and humiliation. This was no longer a disagreement. It was a war. That night I opened my laptop and began typing. The document title, "The Fence War. A True Story." It started as therapy, an outlet for my anger. But soon the words took on a rhythm, a heartbeat. Every sentence was a release, every paragraph a declaration. I wrote about the entitlement, the subtle sexism, the way women like me were told to relax and not make a scene. When I finished, I posted it anonymously on Reddit. True off my chest. The title, "My neighbor keeps letting his dogs destroy my lawn, and now he's stealing my land." Then I went to bed, not expecting much. By morning, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Tens of thousands of upvotes. Comments pouring in. One read, "Girl, you better lawyer up. This guy's about to meet karma." Another, "Post videos. The internet loves a good suburban revenge story." I stared at the screen, stunned. Maybe, just maybe, people were listening. And I had a feeling Colin wouldn't like that one bit. When I woke up the next morning, my phone looked like it had caught fire overnight. Notifications stacked up faster than I could swipe them away. Reddit messages, friend requests, comments, and tags on platforms I hadn't even opened in months. My anonymous post had escaped Reddit and jumped to TikTok, Twitter, even Facebook neighborhood groups. The internet had chosen its next suburban villain, and his name was Colin Davis. I scrolled through the comments in disbelief. Classic male entitlement, probably thinks the HOA owes him a parade. "Girl, please film this next time. We'll make him famous. This is why property laws exist. Call animal control." Some users even started digging into public records, speculating where I lived, who my neighbor might be. I hadn't named anyone, but apparently the internet was very good at connecting dots. Too good. By noon, my post had over 50,000 upvotes and counting. Ruby called before I could even take a breath. "Liv, holy crap, you're trending." "I didn't do anything," I said. It just took off. She laughed. You've gone viral, baby. You're basically the main character of Reddit right now. I don't want to be the main character. Too late. You're the Christmas justice story of the week. People are calling it Fencegate. I rubbed my temples. God. Oh, come on, she teased. You always said you wanted your writing to reach people. Well, it reached millions. That's not exactly what I had in mind. That evening, as I stood in the kitchen reheating leftover turkey, I saw movement outside the window. Colin was standing in his yard, hands on hips, face-red phone in hand. He was scrolling furiously. Even from across the fence, I could see it. He'd found the post. He looked up and met my eyes. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then in one quick motion, he flipped me off. The next second, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You think this is funny? Delete the post? Now. My stomach dropped. I typed back, "Who is this? Don't play dumb, Liv. You made up lies about me online. Take them down or I'll sue you for defamation." I froze. Somehow he had my number. Daniel answered on the first ring. "Okay, breathe," he said calmly, after I told him everything. "He can't sue you for telling the truth. But what if he finds the post? What if he proves it's me? He can't not easily. You didn't use names, locations, or photos. He'd have to prove damages, and from what you've shown me, you've got plenty of evidence on your side." He texted me. "He knows it's me. Because he's guilty and paranoid," Daniel said. "Ignore him. Document every message. And Liv. Keep your cool. Don't reply again." I hung up, trying to steady my breathing. Outside, Colin was pacing his yard, gesturing angrily into his phone. His dogs barked from behind him, their voices sharp in the cold night air. I turned off the kitchen light, not wanting him to see me watching. That was when I noticed the new addition. A security camera mounted high on his back porch, aimed directly at my yard. 2 days later, things got worse. A neighbor, Mrs. Jennings, from across the street, knocked on my door, clutching her iPad. "Liv, honey," she whispered, "is this about you?" She showed me a Facebook post from the Cedar Grove Neighbors group. A man claiming to be the guy from Reddit's fence story had posted a rant. "Don't believe everything you read online. Some bored housewife next door is trying to ruin my reputation because she's bitter about life. She trespassed on my property, not the other way around. I'm calling my lawyer." The comments were wild. Some sided with him, others called him a liar. But one thing was certain, people were invested. "He's spinning it," I said quietly. Mrs. Jennings gave me a sympathetic look. "You know how gossip travels here, dear. Maybe it's time to let things calm down." But it was too late for calm. That evening, Ruby burst through my door again. "Okay, so I might have accidentally made it worse," she said. I groaned. "Ruby, what did you do? I posted a video about it. Just a little one, I didn't name names either, Ruby." She winced. "It's at 2 million views. What? People love your story. They're calling it the grass war. I even put dramatic music behind it." I dropped my face into my hands. Oh my God. No, seriously, it's working. The comments are all on your side. Someone even started a hashtag Karma Christmas. I wanted to be mad, but part of me couldn't stop laughing. The absurdity of it all, my quiet life as a novelist turned into a viral revenge saga, felt surreal. Then Ruby's smile faded. "Liv, there's something else." She turned her phone toward me. Colin had posted his own TikTok. He stood in his yard holding one of his dogs, saying, "This is Rex. He's a good boy. He didn't hurt anyone. But our crazy neighbor is making up lies for attention. Let's show her what a real viral looks like." It had 300,000 views in 4 hours. And the comments brutal. "Karen energy. She probably called animal control over barking. Get a life, lady." My throat tightened. "He's turning people against me." Ruby clenched her jaw. "Then you hit back harder." "No," I said. "That's what he wants. He wants a fight." "Then what do you do?" I looked at the wrecked lawn outside the broken fence, the mud, the snow melting into puddles. "I wait," I said, "because karma doesn't need my help." But karma apparently worked fast. The next day I got a message from a stranger on Reddit. "Hey, I'm a contractor in your area. I recognize that guy's backyard from a TikTok. Thought you should know he illegally expanded his deck over the property line. HOA's gonna love that." I stared at the message, heart racing. Within hours, screenshots of Colin's own posts began circulating photos of his DIY projects, proof that he'd built half his patio on land that wasn't his. By nightfall, karma. On Christmas was trending again, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel powerless. Because while Colin was online calling me a liar, the internet had found the truth all on its own. And soon, everyone, including the HOA, was going to see it. By the end of the week, it wasn't just the internet watching, it was the entire neighborhood. Every time I went outside, I felt eyes on me. Curtains twitching, conversations pausing. Even the mailman gave me a knowing smile like he was delivering to a local celebrity. I hadn't meant for any of this to happen. I just wanted Colin to take responsibility. But now my quiet street in Cedar Grove had turned into a small-town circus. And Colin, he was loving every second of it. That Saturday morning, I heard loud music coming from his backyard country rock blasting across the fence. I opened my kitchen window just in time to hear his voice booming over the noise. "Smile, boys. We're filming the real story today." He was standing in his yard camera crew, and all, or at least 3 friends with phones staging his own version of events. One of his dogs barked as he gestured toward my house. "Look at that fence. She says I broke it. Looks fine to me. Ain't no damage here, folks. Just another bitter neighbor." He laughed. His friends laughed. The dogs barked louder. I shut the window before my blood pressure could spike. By noon, Ruby showed up unannounced again, laptop in hand. "Liv, you're not going to believe this," she said. "He's posting daily. He's literally making episodes." She turned the screen toward me. Colin's TikTok profile was filled with videos, neighbor drama update proof she's lying dog dad versus drama queen. Each clip had thousands of comments. The responses were a battlefield of opinions. Some sided with him calling my original post an attack on a good guy, while others saw right through the performance, labeling him the poster boy for male entitlement. Half of them were trolling him, but the other half the ones calling me names, dissecting my body language from a single photo, made me sick. Ruby scrolled. This one got 2 million views in 6 hours. He's monetizing this, Liv. He's turning it into content. I rubbed my temples. Of course he is. Everything's a show to him. But then Ruby's grin returned. Except this time, he picked the wrong audience. Look. She pulled up another post, a side-by-side stitch of his video, and a new clip from a local TikTok user named @JusticeInsiderGrove. It showed screenshots of property records, aerial maps, and that damning image of his patio extending 2 feet over the line. The caption read, "He's laughing now, but wait until the HOA and the county see this." The comment section exploded. "Bros out here making vlogs from stolen land. Someone get this guy a measuring tape for Christmas. Karma's not late, she's just letting the internet do the math." Ruby giggled. "He's getting roasted in 4K. The internet loves a hypocrite." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "This is getting insane." "Yeah," Ruby said, "but for once it's not at your expense." That evening, Daniel called. His voice was a mix of amusement and exasperation. "You're trending nationally," he said. Grassgate has officially hit 10 million views." I groaned. "Oh God. Don't worry, legally you're fine." But the HOA finally woke up. "They're holding an emergency board meeting Monday. About the dogs, about everything," he said. "They've been getting flooded with complaints, videos, screenshots, people tagging them online. It's PR hell. They'll have to act." For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to relief. "Daniel," I said, "do you think this will actually end it?" He paused. "No, but it'll start something." Monday night, I walked into the HOA meeting with Ruby by my side. The small community center was packed, standing room only, residents whispering and craning their necks to see me. Colin was already there, sitting front row, arms crossed, smirk locked in place. His dogs were outside in his truck barking through the open windows. When the board chair called my name, I stood. My palms were sweating, but my voice stayed steady. I've lived here for 6 years, I began, and I've always believed this neighborhood could be better than the stereotypes, the gossip, the pettiness. But this isn't about drama. It's about respect. I projected the photos onto the screen, the paw prints, the broken ornaments, the gravel path across my property line. Gasps rippled through the room. Every time I tried to resolve this quietly, I was told to relax, I continued. But if you've ever been dismissed, ignored, or disrespected, you know how it feels. This isn't about grass. It's about boundaries. When I finished, there was silence. Then Colin stood spreading his arms like he was performing on stage. Folks, he said, you all know me. I'm not some monster. I'm just a guy with dogs. Yeah, maybe a fence got dinged, maybe my dogs ran loose once or twice. But this, he gestured toward the screen, this is overkill. She's turned me into a meme. Laughter rippled through the crowd, but not in his favor. Someone shouted, maybe stay off TikTok then. Colin's jaw tightened. You people think this is funny, but she's ruined my reputation. The chair cleared her throat. Mr. Davis, according to county property maps, your deck and gravel path do extend 2 feet into Ms. Harper's property. He blinked. That's impossible. Animal control also confirmed 3 separate reports about your dogs being off-leash, she added. You'll be fined, and the encroachment needs to be removed within 30 days. The room erupted, whispers, murmurs, and a few quiet claps. Ruby squeezed my hand. Colin turned toward me, feeling pale. You did this, he hissed. No, I said calmly. You did. When I got home that night, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat by the window. The neighborhood was quiet for once, no barking, no music, no shouting. The next morning I saw movement outside. Colin, shovel in hand, digging up his own gravel path under the watchful eye of 2 HOA officers. His once pristine yard now looked like a crime scene. Ruby texted me a single line, "Karma's trending again." And sure enough, within hours, a video of Colin angrily digging had surfaced online captioned, "The man who said, 'It's just grass,' is now cleaning up his own mess." 3 million views in one day. For the first time since Christmas Eve, I smiled not out of spite, but out of relief. Because finally, the fence wasn't the only thing that had been set straight. By Tuesday morning, Colin's redemption arc had already started, except it wasn't one he planned. A video titled, "When Karma Makes You the HOA's Handyman," was blowing up on TikTok. It showed Colin sweaty, frustrated, muttering under his breath, dragging bags of gravel, tearing up the illegal walkway he'd built, and shoveling mud back into my yard. Every few seconds, he'd glance up and glare at the camera, realizing someone was recording. That someone apparently was a teenager down the street. By noon, the video had over 3 million views. The comments were merciless. He said, "It's just grass." Now look at him. You love to see poetic justice in HD. Liv's lawn got more screen time than half of Netflix. It was official, the neighborhood feud had become public property. I first saw the video when Ruby texted me a link, followed by 30 laughing emojis. Ruby girl. He's on TikTok. Again. And this time you're winning. Me. You're kidding. Ruby. Nope. Check #Grassgate. You're basically trending again. Against my better judgment, I opened the app. And there it was. Colin in his backyard, hunched over mud splattering on his jeans, while the teen filming whispered, "Yo, he's still at it. HOA ain't playing." A remix version used dramatic Christmas music cutting between his rant from 2 weeks ago. Relax. It's just grass and him now scrubbing mud off fence posts. I shouldn't have laughed. But I did. Hard. It wasn't vengeance. It was closure. Later that afternoon, I was sitting at my desk trying to focus on work when my phone rang. It was Daniel. "Liv," he said, "you're not going to believe this. Colin's cleanup video just hit the local news." "What?" "They're running a segment tonight, something about holiday neighbor disputes and social media accountability. Channel 9. You might want to watch." "Oh my God." "I know," he chuckled. "This is wild. But listen, legally, you're in the clear. Don't post anything, don't comment, don't acknowledge it publicly. Just let karma do her job. Karma's working overtime, I muttered. That night, Ruby and I sat on the couch with popcorn, watching the news like it was a movie premiere. The anchor, a woman with perfect hair and a too bright smile, introduced the story. A Christmas dispute in Cedar Grove has gone viral after one man's dogs allegedly damaged a neighbor's lawn, and his cleanup efforts became an unexpected internet sensation. The camera cut to footage of Colin dragging a trash bag looking miserable, while dramatic music played underneath. Then they cut to me. A brief shot from a week earlier when a local reporter had stopped by unannounced to get my side. I'd said as little as possible, but my face now appeared under the headline, "The Grass War, a Suburban Christmas Saga." Ruby nearly fell off the couch laughing. "Oh my God, you're famous, I'm mortified," I said. "This isn't fame, this is neighborhood purgatory." The report ended with the anchor saying, "Viewers online are calling it a lesson in karma," proving once again that what happens in your neighborhood doesn't always stay there. I turned off the TV and sank into the cushions. Ruby looked at me still grinning. "So how's it feel to be a viral sensation like I want to move?" The next morning I found an envelope taped to my front door. It was from Colin. Inside was a handwritten note. "Liv, congratulations. You got what you wanted. The fence is fixed, the path's gone, the dogs are leashed. You won. Hope you're happy now. See, no apology, no responsibility, just resentment dressed as surrender." I folded the note and tucked it into a drawer. I didn't need to respond. His bitterness was proof enough that I'd hit the one thing he cared about most, his pride. Still, part of me wondered if the humiliation had gone too far. Not because he didn't deserve it, but because of how public it had become. Everyone was talking at the coffee shop and Facebook groups, even at the grocery store. And while the internet forgot things fast, Cedar Grove didn't. That weekend I saw Colin again. He was standing in his yard wearing dark sunglasses and pretending to water his plants, even though it was 40 degrees outside. Our eyes met briefly over the fence. He looked tired, angry, yes, but also defeated. For the first time, I didn't feel anger, just exhaustion. I broke the silence first. "Colin." I said I didn't want this to turn into what it did. He scoffed. "Yeah, could have fooled me. I just wanted you to take care of the damage." "I did," he said, on live TV apparently. He turned and walked back toward his porch without another word. The conversation was short, but it stayed with me all night. Maybe the internet had done what the HOA never could force: accountability. But it had also turned two neighbors into content, and in the process stripped away what little humanity either of us had left in this feud. The following Monday, I received an email from a producer at Good Morning Austin. "Hi, Olivia. We're doing a segment on viral neighborhood moments, stories of accountability, community, and unexpected justice. Your lawn incident perfectly fits the theme. Would you be open to a short interview? We'd love your perspective on how social media can bring awareness to local disputes." I stared at the screen for a long moment. Ruby texted me right after, "Do it. This is your chance to own the story." But I wasn't sure I wanted to. Was this justice or just entertainment? That night I opened my TikTok again. The latest video of Colin had hit 7 million views. One comment caught my eye. "She didn't ruin him. He ruined himself. Accountability isn't cruelty." And for the first time since this whole ordeal began, I felt peace. Because maybe that was the real lesson, that karma doesn't always destroy. Sometimes she just shines a light where people least expect it. And when the world's watching, there's nowhere left to hide. The email from Good Morning Austin sat in my inbox like a glowing invitation to chaos. I must have read it 10 times that night, weighing every word: community, justice, accountability. The kind of words producers use when they want a viral human interest story that's just edgy enough to keep people watching through the commercial break. Ruby was thrilled, of course. "This is it, Liv. Your redemption arc. You'll go from that neighbor to that woman who stood her ground." But I wasn't sure I wanted to stand anywhere near a camera again. Still, a part of me, the storyteller, the writer who spent her life observing, couldn't help but be curious. What would happen if I said yes? I hit reply. Hi, this is Olivia Harper. I appreciate your interest. I'm open to discussing the story, but only if the focus stays on respect boundaries and accountability, not drama. They wrote back within an hour. Absolutely, Olivia. We want your authentic perspective. We'll handle it with care. Filming Thursday at 11 a.m. I sighed. It was happening. Ruby nearly squealed when I told her, I'm coming over early that day. We'll do your hair makeup, the whole thing. Don't you dare wear that gray sweater you always hide in. I rolled my eyes. It's a comfort sweater. It's a depression sweater, she shot back. We're going national. You're gonna look like the queen of karma. By Wednesday night, the anxiety had officially set in. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined a camera zooming in on my face as an anchor said, the woman whose viral feud turned her quiet neighborhood upside down. Daniel called, probably sensing my nerves through the ether. Liv, he said gently, you're not on trial. You didn't do anything wrong. You told the truth. I know I said staring out the window at Colin's darkened house, but the truth isn't what people care about. They care about spectacle. He paused. Then tell your truth so clearly it can't be twisted. Thursday morning came cold and bright, the kind of Texas winter day that looks warm until you step outside and the wind cuts straight through you. The news van pulled up at 10:45 sharp. A cheerful woman with a headset hopped out first, followed by a cameraman carrying enough equipment to film a Marvel movie. Hi, Olivia. I'm Brooke, producer for Good Morning Austin. We're thrilled to have you. Her smile was professional, the kind that didn't quite reach her eyes. Within minutes, they transformed my backyard into a set. The camera faced the repaired fence, the patch of new sod, and the faint marks of where Colin's dogs had once turned everything to mud. Ruby hovered nearby, fussing with my hair until the producer politely asked her to step back. Then Brooke leaned in. Okay, Olivia, just relax. We're going to start with an easy question: what happened that Christmas? The interview began smoothly enough. I talked about how it started: the dogs, the broken fence, the nights of yelling and laughter that kept me awake. I described how it felt to be dismissed, to be told, it's just grass, as if boundaries didn't matter. Brooke nodded sympathetically, eyes flicking toward the camera every few seconds. And when your story went viral, how did that feel? I hesitated. Complicated. I didn't want it to blow up. I just wanted accountability. But once the internet gets hold of something, it doesn't let go. She smiled. So do you feel justice was served? The question hung in the air. I thought about Colin cleaning his lawn under the watchful eye of the HOA and millions of strangers, about the resentment in his note, about the exhaustion that had replaced my anger. I think justice and humiliation aren't the same thing, I said finally. Karma worked, yes, but she doesn't always leave people whole afterward, not even the ones she's helping. Brooke blinked clearly, not expecting that answer. But the cameraman nodded quietly as if he understood. After the interview, I watched them pack up, thanking me for my bravery and promising to send a link when it aired. Ruby practically vibrated with excitement. You were amazing, so calm, so articulate. You sounded like Oprah with better hair. I laughed, but it was hollow. Yeah, well, let's hope they don't edit me into a villain. Stop worrying. This is your chance to control the narrative, she said, grinning. And maybe get some followers while you're at it. I raised an eyebrow. Followers, she shrugged. Hey, you could use the exposure for your writing. Post a short video about setting boundaries. Tag it #KarmaOnChristmas. People love that stuff. It's good SEO. I smiled despite myself. Only you could turn a viral feud into a branding opportunity. Share your truth, stock your platform, she said with mock seriousness. That's the new American dream. That night I couldn't resist checking TikTok. Clips of the interview were already circulating. Someone had filmed part of the shoot from across the street. Captioned, "The Grass War Ladies Getting Interviewed, Live Justice Update." The comments were surprisingly kind. She handled that with class. She didn't even drag him, just told the story. Respect, accountability. Without cruelty, rare these days. But then came one that stopped me cold. She's lying. I know the guy. She set him up for views. and underneath it, a username I recognized instantly, @ColinTX Day5. The next day I got another email. "Hi Olivia, this is Brooke from Good Morning Austin. The segment aired Monday and heads up, Mr. Davis reached out. He says he wants to share his side too." I exhaled slowly, staring at the screen. Of course he did. I pictured him rehearsing his apology on camera, except it wouldn't be an apology. It would be justification, excuses, maybe even a few tears for sympathy. Ruby texted, "He's going to try to flip it. Don't let him win the narrative." Daniel texted right after, "Stay calm. People can tell who's genuine." And me, I closed my laptop and looked out at the repaired lawn, the grass still uneven, but growing again resilient. "Fine," I murmured to the empty room. "If he wants to go public, let him." Because the truth didn't need to scream anymore. It just needed to be seen. The Monday morning air buzzed with that strange energy that comes before a storm, quiet, heavy, expectant. I made coffee, turned on the TV, and there it was. Good Morning Austin. A banner ran across the screen, the grass war. When neighborhood drama goes viral. My face flashed. First a quick montage of my interview, my repaired fence, my voice saying, "Justice and humiliation aren't the same thing." Then came the part I'd been dreading. "Now the other side," said the anchor, turning to a man sitting across from her, Colin Davis. He looked different. Clean-shaven, polished. His usual ball cap was swapped for a gray button-down that screamed, "I'm the victim here." He gave a tight smile. "Thanks for having me." The anchor leaned in tone, perfectly sympathetic. "Colin, the internet's painted you as the villain of this story. What do you want people to know?" He took a dramatic breath. "First off, I love my dogs. They're my family. And yeah, they wandered a bit. I didn't realize they were causing so much trouble for Olivia until it blew up. I almost choked on my coffee. Didn't realize he'd been told a dozen times." He continued looking at the camera like a man reciting a confession for his pastor. "The truth is, Olivia's always been difficult. She likes control. The fence, the yard, the noise, it was never about dogs. It was about power." My jaw dropped. "Power," I muttered at the screen. Ruby texted me instantly, "He's playing the poor guy act. Classic deflection. Don't take the bait." Colin kept going, weaving a narrative so well practiced it almost sounded believable. "Look, I messed up. I built that walkway because I thought it would make both our yards look better. I didn't realize it crossed the line. When she made it public, I felt humiliated, like she wanted to destroy me." The anchor nodded gravely. "And what about the viral videos of you cleaning the yard?" He gave a small laugh, the kind that tried to look humble. "Yeah, that was rough. But you know what? I owned it. I cleaned it, and I learned. Maybe that's what Christmas karma is all about." The camera zoomed in on his face, sincere, apologetic, even likable. It was infuriating. The man who'd called me a drama queen was now using karma like a branding slogan. By the time the segment ended, the internet had already taken sides again. Half the comments praised me. The other half, well, they'd found a new narrative. Maybe she overreacted. He seems genuine. This whole thing got blown out of proportion. That night my name was trending again. But this time the tone was different. Control freak. Entitled neighbor. Maybe she just hates dogs. The tide was turning and it made me sick. By evening my inbox was full of interview requests. Some supportive, others hungry for drama. Ruby came over, pacing my kitchen like a publicist in crisis. "He's spinning the story. If you stay quiet, you lose control." "I'm not making this a war," I said. "That's exactly what he wants. Liv, he just turned himself into a misunderstood single guy trying to survive a neighborhood feud. The internet loves that archetype. If you don't speak up, he wins." Daniel called right after. "Don't post, don't go live. Let this die down. His 15 minutes will burn out faster than you think." I rubbed my temples. "You both can't be right." "Then trust your gut," he said. But my gut felt like a battlefield. By the next morning, Colin's video response had hit 1 million views. He stood in his truck looking weary and noble under the soft filter of early morning light. "I just want peace," he said into the camera. "I don't hate my neighbor. I just wish she'd talk to me like a person instead of turning me into content." The irony nearly short-circuited my brain. He'd posted dozens of clips mocking me, but now I was the one making content. Ruby sent another text. "Oh, he's good. But I can beat him at his own game." "Don't," I replied instantly. "Too late," she replied. Within hours, Ruby's account had posted a TikTok with the caption, "Receipts." Because gaslighting has an expiration date. It was a collage of Colin's old clips, laughing, taunting, calling me names side by side with his new polished interview persona. The soundtrack, that same smug line of his, "Relax, it's just grass." The video exploded. By nightfall, it had 4 million views. Then something unexpected happened. A local real estate agent, someone from the HOA, left a comment confirming the truth. She didn't make anything public. The footage came from a security camera filed as evidence. He leaked it himself, trying to get sympathy. The internet turned again. So he played himself, bro went full villain origin story, and still lost. This is karma's sequel. Colin deleted his TikTok within hours. But by then, it didn't matter. The videos had been downloaded, reposted, and dissected across 1,000 pages. The same people who called me controlling now called him a liar. The same ones who pitied him now mocked him. And me, I didn't feel victory. Just exhaustion. Late that night, there was a knock on my door. I froze. Then slowly opened it. Colin stood there, hood up, hands in his pockets, face pale. "I didn't leak it," he said quietly. "You have to believe me." I stared at him stunned. "Why would I believe anything you say? Because—" His voice broke slightly. "I think someone else did. Someone from the HOA or that law office you talked to. It's bigger than us now, Liv. People are using it." He looked terrified, and for the first time since this started, not of me but of the chaos he'd helped unleash. Before I could respond, he turned and walked away into the dark. When I went back inside, my phone was buzzing. Another email this time from a media company in Los Angeles. "Olivia, we'd like to discuss licensing rights for your story. Possible adaptation for streaming. Call us." I read it twice, my heart pounding. Because somehow our ugly little neighborhood war wasn't just viral anymore. It was becoming entertainment. And for the first time, I wondered if karma was still working, or if we'd both become her collateral. The email from Los Angeles felt like a prank at first. "We're developing a docuseries on viral justice moments, real-life stories of accountability, community, and redemption. Your story has the emotional core we're looking for. Let's talk." I reread it 3 times, waiting for the punchline. But when I Googled the sender, Riverside Productions, Los Angeles, I realized it was real. Real enough to scare me. Ruby, on the other hand, was ecstatic. "Liv," she said, eyes wide as saucers. "This is it. A production company wants your story. This is your Netflix moment," I snorted. "It's a neighborhood dispute about dog poop and grass." "Yeah, but with karma, Christmas, and millions of views. That's American gold, baby," I laughed. But something about the idea unsettled me. My life had already been turned into content once by accident. Did I really want to hand it over again, this time on purpose? Still, curiosity got the better of me. I replied. By Friday, I was sitting in a Zoom meeting with a woman named Leah Chambers, a producer with a smile like polished marble. She greeted me warmly. "Olivia, first of all, congratulations. Your story's not just viral, it's universal. Boundaries entitlement, social media justice. It resonates." "Thanks," I said cautiously. "But I'm not sure I want my private life dramatized." "Oh, it wouldn't be exploitative," she assured me. "We'd position you as the voice of reason, the empathetic homeowner standing up for respect. Think of it as your chance to reclaim the narrative on your terms." She leaned closer to the camera. "And of course, you'd be compensated. Fairly." I hesitated. "How fair?" she smiled. "Let's just say the licensing deal includes a 5-figure upfront payment and a share of any streaming royalties. A small percentage of stock options if the show expands." That word "share" caught my attention. It sounded surreal. I'd gone from arguings about a fence to discussing intellectual property rights. Leah continued, "We'd like to begin filming interviews in January. Just you, your kids, maybe a few neighbors. You'd have approval over how you're portrayed." "And Colin?" I asked. Her expression didn't change. "He's already agreed to participate." The silence stretched between us like a live wire. When the call ended, I sat staring at my reflection on the black screen. He agreed. Colin, the man who'd humiliated me, lied, and gone viral for all the wrong reasons, had already signed on. Ruby's jaw dropped when I told her. "That snake, he's trying to get his redemption arc before you even say yes." "I don't care about arcs," I said quietly. "I just don't want to be rewritten." Daniel called later that night. "I heard about the offer," he said. "Be careful. These companies don't care about the truth. They care about views." "Do you think I should do it?" He paused. "If it helps you tell your story, maybe. But if it reopens wounds, walk away." I stared out the window at the lawn green again, though the winter frost dulled its edges. "I'm not sure I can tell which it'll be," I whispered. 2 days later, Leah sent over the draft contract. I spent the evening combing through the clauses, image rights, editing permissions, royalties, stock options. Every line felt like a new trap. This wasn't a contract. It was a blueprint for losing control. I remembered the pit in my stomach the day Colin's video went live, how he'd seized my story, twisted it, and used his dogs as props in his own version of events. I had been a character in his narrative, and now a whole production company wanted to do the same thing. The word dramatize leapt off the page, cold and precise. It meant they could rewrite my pain into a plot point, my exhaustion into a dramatic monologue. They could make my life a spectacle all over again. I closed my laptop and pushed it away. The next morning I found Colin waiting outside by the fence. He looked nervous, hands shoved deep into his jacket pockets. "I heard they reached out to you," he said. "They did," I replied flatly. "I signed already. They said they wanted both perspectives. Maybe if we work together we can make this less ugly." I laughed bitterly, pulling my arms across my chest. "You mean rewrite history so you don't look like the villain?" He flinched slightly, looking down at his shoes. "I just want it to end live. We both got dragged. Maybe this is how we move on." For a moment I didn't see the smug neighbor or the internet villain. I saw a tired man, one who'd been chewed up and spat out by the same machine that had briefly turned me into a meme. Still, I didn't trust him. "I'll think about it," I said finally. That night I went through my old writing notebooks, half-finished stories about justice, pride, and ordinary people facing small, cruel injustices. I'd always believed that storytelling was a way to make sense of pain. But this felt different. If I signed that contract, I'd lose control of my story again, the way Colin had, the way we both had when our private war became public property. Maybe some stories weren't meant for TV. Maybe some kinds of justice didn't belong in the spotlight. I opened my laptop, found Leah's email, and typed my reply. "Leah, I appreciate the opportunity, but I have to decline. The story is finished for me. Please don't contact me again about licensing." Then, before I could second-guess it, I hit send. The next morning, Ruby called in disbelief. "You what? That was your ticket to revenge and royalties?" "I don't want revenge," I said. "I want peace. Peace doesn't pay bills." "No," I said softly, "but it lets you sleep." When I hung up, I stepped outside. The sky was pale blue, the kind that feels clean and honest. My lawn was quiet, the grass finally growing back strong and even. Across the fence, Colin stood on his porch watching me. For the first time, he didn't smirk, didn't talk. He just nodded, small, silent, maybe even respectful. And I nodded back. Because sometimes the only way to win is to stop playing the game. 3 weeks passed before the noise finally started to fade. The cameras stopped showing up at the end of the street. The hashtags slowed down. Even the endless cycle of TikTok remixes, Colin slipping in the mud, my fence half standing, began to disappear beneath newer scandals. It was strange how silence felt heavier than chaos. The world had moved on. But I was still here sitting on my porch, coffee in hand, staring at a lawn that had somehow survived everything dogs, frost, humiliation, the internet. Maybe that's what healing looked like. A little patchy, a little uneven, but still standing. I went back to writing. It felt awkward at first, like using muscles that had atrophied. The cursor blinked on an empty document while my brain whispered, "Who's going to care about fiction when your real life's already been televised?" But slowly the words came. Not about revenge or viral justice, but about grace, about the quiet ways people rebuild after being broken. My editor, a woman named Jody, called after reading the first draft of my new story. "Olivia," she said, "this is the best thing you've ever written. It feels lived in." I smiled. That's one way to put it. Life around the neighborhood found a new rhythm, too. The Davises kept to themselves. Colin still walked his dogs, but now they were always on leashes, and he always carried a bag. We nodded when we crossed paths, like two veterans of the same war who didn't need to speak about it. The HOA, perhaps terrified of another public disaster, started actually enforcing its own rules. Suddenly, fences were measured, walkways reviewed, and one neighbor's illegal shed mysteriously vanished overnight. Ruby joked, "You turned this place into the most obedient block in Texas." "Guess I should add that to my resume," I said. But she wasn't entirely wrong. There was a new kind of awareness in the neighborhood, a fragile civility built not on friendship, but on fear of exposure. One morning I stepped outside and knelt down, my hand resting on a small, smooth patch of new sod near the fence line. It was cool and firm beneath my fingers, a quiet promise of new growth. The grass was a little patchy, but it was there. This small private symbol of healing felt more real than any headline. A week later, I ran into Colin again, this time at the grocery store. We both reached for the same carton of milk, and for a second, it was almost funny. He looked tired, older, humbled. "Hey," he said softly. "Didn't think I'd run into you here." "Small town," I replied. He nodded awkwardly, then took a long, steady breath as if preparing for a difficult conversation. "Listen, Liv, I never said it before, but I'm sorry. Not just for the lawn, for all of it." I studied his face, searching for sarcasm, but there was none. His eyes, usually so smug, held a quiet sincerity. "You really mean that?" He nodded. "Yeah. The whole thing got out of control. I lost some work over it. Lost friends, too. Guess I deserved it." "You didn't lose them because of me," I said. "You lost them because of what you did." "I know." He hesitated, then met my gaze again. "Still, I'm trying to do better." I exhaled slowly. "Good. I hope you do." He smiled, small, weary, but real. "Merry early Christmas, Liv." It was the first time he'd said my name without a sneer. "Merry Christmas, Colin." That night I sat at my desk and opened a fresh document. Title: "The Grass Still Grows." It wasn't a revenge story. It wasn't even about Colin anymore. It was about boundaries and grace, about the strange way life forces you to grow in the cracks people leave behind. Halfway through writing, a notification popped up. The article from the Daily View had gone live. Headline: "From Viral Karma to Quiet Strength, the Woman Who Chose Peace Over Payback." I smiled, closed the laptop, and looked out the window at my yard, green, still imperfect, but alive. Because the truth was simple: grass grows back. So do people. The holidays came again, faster than I expected. 1 year since the Christmas chaos, and Cedar Grove looked deceptively peaceful, houses glowing with string lights, wreaths on every door, families waving at each other like nothing had ever happened. But peace in this town was performative. You could feel it under the surface, that cautious, brittle politeness people used to avoid saying what they really thought. I noticed it every time I walked into the local coffee shop. Conversations stopped for half a second. Heads turned. They pretended not to recognize me, but they did. I'd been the grass lady once. A punchline, a symbol, a lesson. Now I was just part of the town's mythology, like a ghost that still haunted the gossip chain. The constant whispers and knowing looks had left me weary. All I really wanted was for my life to be quiet and boring again. That morning I dropped Emma and Jack off at school, then stopped by the park with my laptop. I'd been freelancing again small magazine pieces mostly about neighborhood life parenting and the human side of internet culture. Irony wasn't lost on me. The article I was finishing was called "When the Internet Moves On But You Don't." In it, I wrote, "Going viral is like being caught in a flood. Everyone rushes to watch, to comment, to take a piece of you. But when the current fades, you're left alone with the wreckage, the soggy remains of your life, wondering what parts can be saved." As I typed the last line, a shadow fell across my screen. "Still writing, huh?" I looked up and there he was. Colin. He wore a baseball cap pulled low, a leash wrapped loosely around his wrist. His dogs, calmer now, sat obediently beside him. "Yeah," I said. "Still writing." He gestured to the bench. "Mind if I sit, sure?" I said warily. He sat down, keeping a respectful distance. For a moment we just watched his dogs chasing leaves in the wind. Then he said quietly, "I read that article about you. The one that went viral again. The peace one." I smiled faintly. "That wasn't supposed to be viral." He chuckled. "Guess you can't help it. You've got a gift for getting people's attention." "I didn't want attention," I said. "Just accountability." "I know." He paused, then looked at me seriously. "I lost my job, you know. After all that, my company said the bad press was hurting business." I didn't know, I admitted. "It's fine," he said quickly. "It forced me to rethink things. I started doing landscaping work." "Ironically, huh?" I laughed, not out of cruelty, but disbelief. "You? Landscaping? Yeah," he said, grinning now. "I fix lawns for a living. I guess karma has a sense of humor." There was something almost redemptive in his tone, not the defensive man I'd known before, but someone learning to live with the consequences. "I'm glad," I said. "You seem better." "I am," he said, "still trying to be. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know I'm grateful. Not for what happened exactly, but for what it taught me. Which is," he looked at the grass, "that when you think you own something, land pride, even peace, you stop respecting it. I used to think control meant power. Now I think it means responsibility." I stared at him, surprised by the depth in his words. Maybe karma didn't just punish, maybe she educated. "Well," I said finally, "if you ever want to mow my lawn, I might consider hiring you." He laughed. "Careful. I charge premium rates now." When I got home, I found a small package on my porch, wrapped in brown paper, no name on it. Inside was a Christmas ornament shaped like a patch of grass. On the back, in tiny handwriting, were the words, "It's never just grass." I didn't need a signature to know who it was from. I hung it near the top of the tree, right beside the little snowman Emma had made in preschool. That night, as the lights reflected off it, I thought about how strange it was the way people can hurt you and still leave something beautiful behind. A few days later, Ruby came over with a bottle of wine. "To new beginnings," she declared. "To quieter ones," I corrected. She clinked her glass against mine. "You know, I kind of miss the chaos. You were trending every week. I had something new to rant about on Facebook." "Trust me," I said. "You didn't miss much." She grinned. "Still, if Netflix calls again, don't say no this time." "I will absolutely say no." "Fine," she sighed. "But at least let me post your article link. It's good for SEO." I laughed. "You'll never change. Never," she said proudly. Later that evening, after the kids were asleep, I sat outside with a blanket wrapped around my shoulders. The air was crisp, the stars sharp and clear. I thought about how much had changed in a year and how much hadn't. The grass had grown back. The fence had been rebuilt. But the invisible boundaries, the emotional ones, were the ones that mattered now. I no longer cared about being right. I cared about being at peace. Somewhere down the street I heard Colin's dogs barking once, then quieting quickly as he called them inside. And for the first time, instead of anger, I felt something unexpected. Relief. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But the kind of relief that comes from realizing the storm has finally passed, and you're still standing. Before going inside, I took one last look at my yard green, peaceful, full of memories and mistakes. If someone had told me a year ago that my greatest victory would be learning to let go, I'd have laughed. But now I understand. Sometimes revenge isn't loud or viral. Sometimes it's simply this: the ability to wake up, breathe freely, and know you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. And as the Christmas lights blinked softly through the window, I whispered to myself, almost smiling, "It's just grass." But this time, I finally believed it. It started on an ordinary Thursday morning, gray sky coffee, half drunk, my kids already at school. I was halfway through editing a short story when my phone buzzed with a text from Ruby. "You're trending again. Check TikTok. Now." My stomach dropped. That combination of words, "you're trending again," had become a mild form of post-traumatic stress disorder. I opened the app reluctantly. At the top of my For You page, a split-screen video one side showed Colin kneeling on my lawn last year, scrubbing mud. The other side showed a clip from a local news broadcast. Caption, "Remember this guy? The It's Just Grass dude. Look where he is now." It had over 3 million views already. The video cuts from his old humiliation to a new clip: Colin, in a bright green uniform, speaking at a community garden project surrounded by volunteers. "We all make mistakes," he was saying to the reporter. "What matters is how you grow after them." Literally. The comments were a war zone. "That's the same guy. Karma made him a gardener. Redemption arc unlocked." This is why I love the internet sometimes. And then beneath it, one comment pinned by the creator. "Even the woman whose lawn he ruined said she forgave him." I froze. I hadn't said that. I scrolled through, searching for context, but the video had already gone viral, spreading faster than the truth could keep up. People were stitching it, adding sentimental piano music, talking about second chances and the power of forgiveness. Even local outlets reposted it with headlines like "From viral villain to community hero, the man who turned his mistake into a mission." Part of me wanted to be angry they'd twisted my story again, but another part of me hesitated. Because for the first time, it wasn't cruel. It was good. Still, I wasn't about to let someone else speak for me. I made a short video of my own calm, measured the way I wished I'd sounded a year ago. Standing in front of my fence, I said, "Hey everyone, it's Olivia. Yes, that's my old neighbor in the new video. No, I never publicly said I forgave him, but I'm not angry anymore. People change, and sometimes you just have to let them." It wasn't a performance, not a clapback, just truth. By the next morning, my video had 5 million views. The top comment read, "This is the closure the internet needed." Then the calls started again. Local news first, then national. The same cycle as before: producers wanting interviews, morning shows, promising a heartwarming redemption story for Christmas. Even Riverside Productions, the company that had tried to buy my story months ago, emailed me again. "Olivia, this is the perfect follow-up. Audiences love full-circle moments. Let's talk about a limited docu-feature, real people, real growth. We could even bring you and Colin together for a reunion." I laughed out loud reading that. A reunion, like this was The Bachelor and not real life. Still, the thought lingered. Would it be terrible to accept this time if the message was positive? Maybe it could do good. Ruby thought so. "Girl, it's karma part 2. But wholesome this time. You'd be crazy not to ride the wave." But Daniel disagreed when I called him. "Don't let them use your piece as content," he warned. "Forgiveness doesn't need a camera." That night I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window watching frost crawl across the glass and thought about how easily life turned into a loop history, replaying itself with better lighting. I opened TikTok again. Colin had posted a video of his own. He stood in front of a small garden wearing gloves, a dog wagging beside him. He looked directly into the camera, his usual cocky demeanor replaced with a somber seriousness I hadn't seen before. "I've learned a lot this past year," he began, his voice soft. "I lost my job. I lost a couple of friends. I had to face the fact that I was the reason for all of it. And my neighbor Liv, she was right. It was never just about the grass. It was about being a good person. It was about respect." He cleared his throat. "I've seen the comments, thank you for the kindness. But the real thanks goes to my neighbor Olivia. She didn't just call me out. She made me grow up. I've spent the last year trying to make things right, not just for her, but for everyone I disrespected. So yeah, it started with grass. But now, it's about planting something better. He smiled, awkwardly waved, and ended the video. And just like that, it went nuclear. The internet crowned him a changed man. #grass redemption trended for 3 straight days. Then the unexpected happened. Someone started tagging me in clips of strangers planting grass seeds in their yards, calling it #the Olivia Challenge, a silly viral trend meant to symbolize growth after mistakes. It was weirdly poetic. People all over the world were literally regrowing lawns in solidarity with a story that had once embarrassed me beyond belief. Even the kids at Emma's school joined in. She came home one afternoon holding a little pot with green sprouts. "Look, Mom," she said proudly. "My class is doing a Grow Back Stronger project. You inspired it. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry." By the end of December, everything had come full circle. Colin and I were both trending again, but this time for the right reasons. News anchors called it the viral feud that bloomed into forgiveness. I refused all interview requests, but I did post one last video. It showed my lawn green and alive with a caption that read, "It started as a mess. But sometimes the mess is how you learn to grow." It got shared over 1,000,000 times. A few days before Christmas, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, Colin stood there holding a poinsettia and a small card. "I promise I'm not here to film anything," he said, smiling nervously. "Just wanted to say, thank you, for everything." I nodded, accepting the plant. "Looks good on you, this whole redemption thing." He laughed. "Guess it beats viral humiliation." Barely, I teased. He hesitated. "Maybe next year we can do something together, a community cleanup or garden project. Something real." I thought about it, then nodded. Maybe. As he walked away, snow began to fall, soft, quiet, unrecorded. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like someone's story. I just felt human. Because forgiveness, real forgiveness, doesn't happen online. It happens right there on your own patch of grass, long after the world stops watching. Christmas morning arrived with a kind of calm I hadn't felt in years. No reporters, no hashtags, no drama humming beneath the holiday lights. Just the quiet sound of coffee brewing, my kids laughing over wrapping paper, and the faint hum of wind against the windows. For the first time since that unforgettable Christmas, the Christmas life felt normal again. Emma handed me a small box wrapped in red paper and grinned. "Open mine first, Mom." I peeled back the wrapping to reveal a small ceramic ornament, a tiny house surrounded by painted green grass. Across the bottom, in her careful handwriting, she'd written, "Peace grows here." I laughed softly, but my throat tightened. "It's perfect," I said. "Thank you, sweetheart." Jack jumped in, holding up his own present. "Mine's better, look." It was a small patch of artificial turf glued into a snow globe. When I shook it, the glitter swirled like frost over tiny plastic blades of grass. "You two are ridiculous," I said, laughing through tears. Emma smiled mischievously. "We saw it on TikTok. People are doing it for the Grass Lady Christmas Challenge. You're kind of famous again." I groaned. Not again, but I couldn't help smiling. Maybe, just maybe, this time fame wasn't so bad. Later that afternoon, Ruby stopped by with champagne and that kind of energy only she could bring. So she announced, plopping onto my couch, "The internet loves you again. You're trending for being wholesome now. Congratulations, Olivia. The redemption arc is complete." I poured her a glass. "I didn't do anything." She smirked. "Exactly. That's why it worked. You didn't try. People can smell honesty online. It's rare." I shook my head, amused. "You sound like my PR manager." "Maybe I should be," she said. "We could monetize this. Brand deals. Merch. It's never just grass mugs. We be rich, Ruby." She raised her hands in mock surrender. Fine. No merch. But you should know the Daily View did a follow-up. Apparently your story's being used in college courses on digital ethics now." I blinked. "You're kidding." "Nope. The professor called it a case study in public accountability and viral empathy." I sat back, letting that sink in. From humiliation to homework, what a strange poetic full circle. That evening I went for a walk. The snow had started to fall, light feathery flakes dusting the lawns. My street glowed under the soft yellow light of Christmas decorations. Halfway down the block I saw Colin outside stringing lights across his porch. He looked up and waved. "Merry Christmas, Liv." "Merry Christmas," I called back. He hesitated, then jogged across the street. "Got a minute?" I nodded. He handed me a small square envelope. Inside was a flyer, a community event announcement. Cedar Grove Cleanup Day, sponsored by Green Roots Landscaping. At the bottom, in smaller print, in partnership with local families and small businesses led by Olivia Brooks. I looked up surprised. "You're putting my name on this," he shrugged. "You started it technically. Without you, none of this would have happened." I laughed. "Without you, it wouldn't have gone viral." He grinned sheepishly. "Touché. But seriously, this could be something good. Real good. We've already got local sponsors and people want to join. It's about giving back, rebuilding trust in the neighborhood." For a moment I couldn't speak. It wasn't pity or guilt I saw in his eyes, it was sincerity. "Count me in," I said finally. He smiled, relief washing over his face. "Thanks, Liv. And thanks for letting me start over." When he left, I stood there for a while looking up at the Christmas lights flickering in his window. A year ago, I would have called it ironic, even absurd. Now it just felt right. People change. Grass grows. Peace takes root when you stop digging up old dirt. That night after the kids were asleep, I sat down at my desk. My latest story was half finished, a short novel called Roots of Forgiveness. It wasn't about me, not directly, but there were echoes, a woman, a lawn, a feud that turned into unexpected healing. At the bottom of the draft, I typed a single line. "Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness are louder than revenge." Then I saved the file, uploaded it to my author page, and shared it on social media with a simple caption, "From Revenge to Renewal." "Merry Christmas, everyone." Within hours, it had thousands of shares. Comments flooded in, people telling their own stories of reconciliation, forgiveness, rebuilding after chaos. The internet that once tore me apart was now helping others heal. That was the kind of full circle even a novelist couldn't script better. A few days later, the Daily View published another feature. The headline made me laugh out loud. "The Woman Who Taught the Internet That Grass Can Grow Back and So Can We." They included photos me smiling in front of my fence, Colin planting flowers with volunteers' kids running barefoot across green lawns. It was everything the first story wasn't: warm, hopeful, human. When I finished reading, I whispered to myself, this is the story I was meant to tell. As midnight approached, I stepped out onto the porch one last time. The world was quiet snow blanketing everything in white. The lawn, the fence, even the old path between our houses, all softened, covered, forgiven. And as I stood there under the cold glow of the moon, I thought of all the people who'd watched this story unfold from ridicule to redemption. The strangers who'd shared my posts. The ones who'd learned something about kindness. The few who'd learned something about themselves. Then I smiled, turned off the porch light, and went inside, leaving only the faint glow of Christmas lights reflecting off the snow. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a character in someone else's viral drama. I just felt home.